Hello everybody, so bit of a different video today. Gonna look at the police interview with Colonel Russell Williams. Now, it's on the Cappening channel, the original interview. I think it's sort of well known as one of the sort of best police interviews that's available online. It is an interesting one. I've been through it a couple of times, and there's some really good techniques, and it's interesting. And just for a bit of background, this is a guy who, was a sick fuck, basically. But I'm going to introduce my good friend Adam here, who knows a lot more about this case than I do. Hello, Adam, and thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, Andrew, and hello everyone. Yeah, well,
you sound like Lon. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Oh God.
So, do you want to just? Obviously, we know this guy is he killed, sort of viciously killed a woman, and he's also he was quite. Sorry. 2 women. Yeah, and also they found quite a lot of stuff on his computer, didn't they?
Well, this really, I love this interview, as weird a thing as that is to say, because it's just the epitome of police interviews. And it's just so, like it's something from a movie, the whole thing, because this guy, he's like a top-ranking colonel in Canada's top air base. He flew the Queen of England, he's flown, lots of, dignitaries and things around. And I think he kind of thought he was untouchable. But the stuff he's done is really fucking sick, because he started off, I believe, and I guess we'll cover this kind of as we learn things during the interview as well, but as like a panty thief, and then it escalated to him becoming this really sexually warped guy. If you Google him, you'll see lots of photos he took of himself wearing women's underwear that he had stolen. But can I point out, if you guys are ever in any of my streams, I have a good friend I know in real life who has the same name. So don't start abusing him, because it's not.
Well, he's incarcerated for the rest of his life, so it's unlikely to be him.
It's not Colonel. If you see a Russell Williams, leave a comment. It's not Colonel Russell Williams. But yeah, this to me. This is something I've wanted to do with you, Andrew, for a while, because whenever I've got nothing else to listen to, or I've exhausted everything and there's nothing new on YouTube, this is the one thing I always come back to.
I always like doing stuff with you, Adam.
Thank you. I like doing things with you too. Sounds a bit gay, though.
Well, there was some guy who made comments on one of my videos once that said, "Oh, why don't you fuck off with your boyfriend, Adam?" So, should we make it official and let everybody know?
The cat's out the bag.
Yeah. Just as we're speaking, I've got on my iPhone a picture of Colonel Russell Williams in a 2-piece pink flowered bikini.
Yeah, and you see the look on his face in that picture as well. I don't know, it's so weird. It's not again, it's one of the things with the Predators. I just can't get my head around what makes people this way, which is why it's such a curiosity to me.
I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head with what we said at the beginning about, well, maybe we can hold off the conversation about the psychology of it until after the interview. Do you think we should get cracking?
Yeah. Let's get into this.
We're 9 minutes in, guys, as you can see. The reason we skipped ahead a little bit at the beginning, it's just a bit boring, because they just talk about his rights and all that kind of stuff. But he walks in. Well, it might be worth just showing how cocky he is when he walks in. Do you agree with that, Adam?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm not sure if it's in those first 9 minutes as well, but there's a point where he looks to the camera and smiles as well, which is really creepy.
So let's just start it off at the beginning, and then we'll skip ahead.
Yeah.
The guy I was speaking with, whatever night that was Russ as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he took every number I had.
Casually
taking his they were doing some pretty thorough interviews that night.
Yeah, absolutely. I was great. Glad to see it.
I'm just going to move your gloves here. That's a little microphone, just to make sure there's nice and clear. As you can see here, everything in this room is videotaped and audio taped.
Check.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
No.
Yeah, just there. So big smile on his face, big beaming smile, looks directly at the camera, chewing his gum, casual as anything. It's like he's just stopped in for a quick chat.
Yeah, with his buddy. Especially, well, and the interviewer in this he starts out very kind of pally with him. I think there's a bit during this first few minutes where he gets him a coffee and it's such a mundane conversation, but it's quite a nice precursor to go from that kind of normal conversation to what they get into.
Let's get this set up here.
I guess the closest interview by NIS for top secret clearance.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, again, Russell, I appreciate you coming in. An investigation like this, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate it's been big news, especially down Belleville way. And, you know, obviously our approach to cases like this is that we don't give up on somebody being alive until we get evidence that they're not. So because of that, we're treating Jessica's case as an emergent situation, obviously.
He's the best style of interviewer in my opinion. He's someone who remains totally emotionless and impartial, and that is the best way to do it. It's once you let your emotions get the better of you, that's when you lose it in any situation. You know, it's like when I did you watched the Slave to Mistresses videos, didn't you?
I was just about to say, you mentioned that because the copper loses his cool a bit, doesn't he, with him? Yeah,
and not that it was any, you know, it hasn't got the relevance that this has got, but at the same time, they should have tried to have remained calm, and they didn't. It's very, very difficult to do, but
he's fantastic in the interview, and his name escapes me now. But there's another interview, a very high-profile case of someone that raped and murdered a little girl, and there's two interviewers, and he comes in only for 5 minutes. He's in it, and he's like the bad cop, and he's like, "Yeah, don't fucking talk. I don't care if you talk. That's just better for me." And it's such a contrast if you see that interview with this interviewer who, during the whole of this, remains so calm.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, sometimes I would suggest that depending on, you've got to come up with a strategy. It depends what evidence you've got. It depends on the type of person that you're dealing with. Going in there and shouting and screaming in this guy's face isn't going to work, because I would suggest that the reason he's so calm at the minute is because of the job that he's got. He's been in very intense, high pressure, maybe even life and death situations. So he's a tough cookie, I think, is the way of putting it.
Yeah.
So ordinarily, some guys, you just crumble. I mean, to sort of go back to that Slave to Mistresses one.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's totally fucking different level of interviewing and as far as high profile cases go. But
I think
he was absolutely terrified, wasn't he?
Well, I think this Russell Williams, apart from he's kind of got a superiority complex, probably because he's superior to everyone on his army base, and also he's quite a domineering. Like, if you look at the difference in physiques between the two guys, he's quite a big fella, isn't he?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, he's an intimidating bloke. I think that's clear to see. So we'll skip ahead now. We just want to get all the legal bullshit out of the way.
Okay. So, if you didn't have the stomach flu on the Friday, what was your schedule that day?
8, really.
Okay.
What would have been my schedule? Just a standard schedule in the office.
Okay.
So, office brief in the morning, a couple of meetings. I can't remember what the specifics were going to be.
Okay. So, Thursday night you slept at Tweed, or you?
Yep.
All right. And what did you do Thursday during the day?
Thursday during the day, I was at the base again. I think it was a fairly standard day. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, nothing. I was not flying, so I was at the base. So I would have gone in early in the morning, back in the evening again.
Okay. Do you remember what time you left the base that night?
Well, interesting for me, in England, if he was interviewed, he'd have what we call a solicitor, in other words, a lawyer, in the interview room with him. But in this case, he hasn't got anybody with him.
Is that in all cases?
Well,
Sorry.
I don't know, but I'm not too familiar with how the interview process works in the US. In the UK,
Yeah.
you get your solicitor, the lawyer has to sit down with the police before they go into interview, and the officer will disclose to the lawyer what evidence there is. They don't have to disclose everything, but they give them an idea. And then the solicitor will speak to the detained person in private, and then they'll outline what they're going to do. In this case, it looks like he's just gone straight in without getting any legal representation. Now, whether that was like a show of strength on his part, as if, he's sort of cockiness.
No, he does say at the very beginning he's not under arrest and he's free to leave at any point. So that's probably why.
But you're still entitled to legal representation. That happens a lot in England, where people are, you'd only arrest someone if it in most cases it's absolutely necessary to prevent harm. I mean, in this fucker's case, you certainly would be arrested in England. But it's just the difference in the way because. Anyway, maybe we should have got over the rights at the beginning, but never mind.
I don't remember anything
I
peculiar,
think
so I would say...
Catch credit guys don't have solicitors, do they? But this is Canada, isn't it, rather than America? So, yeah.
I don't know, probably 7 to 9, somewhere in that range.
Okay. And that's when you left?
Left the base, yeah.
It's
a 45-minute transit.
45 minutes home?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to walk you through November, but I'm going to take you to a date that's probably pretty fresh in your mind. The day that Marie-France coma.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you found out?
I do. Yeah, I was sent an email. Well, as soon as the ops staff and the base learned, they told me.
Okay.
So I got an email. I can't remember if it was late at night or early in the morning. It was certainly, I saw it, I want to say first thing in the morning, because I had just come back from Ottawa. I was in Ottawa for a set of meetings on one of the days. I can't remember what day of the week we're talking about, but obviously when your people gets killed, it gets your attention. So,
absolutely.
yeah, I very much remember that coming in.
And how did you know Marie-France coma?
I'd only met her once. She was on a crew I was on just after I got to the base.
Okay.
So I can't even remember. I think it was a one-day trip. I did a number of trips in Canada, transporting our troops, sort of first leg out of Edmonton. We tend to hopscotch them across until they get into theatre. So anyway, I can't remember which trip it was, but we did a number of them out to Edmonton just to pick up the troops, bring them to Trenton, and then put a fresh crew on, and because we fly out and back in the same day, so pushing the edge of that. And, fresh crew on. They do watch CSI occasionally.
Skipped out a bit.
Okay. So you have an idea of, obviously, the forensic capabilities, things like that are out there. What would you be willing to give me today to help me move past you in this investigation?
What do you need?
Well, would you be willing to supply things like fingerprints, blood samples,
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Footwear impressions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's got to have, his mindset's got to have changed there now. That Williams, because he's gone in there for a chat, as we've said, and now he's asking him for fingerprints, DNA, and foot impressions. So surely now he's ticking in his brain, thinking, "Shit."
But this is how this guy is. The foot impressions is very important. I won't give it away, but
well, that's what I mean. So I would suggest that at this point, Williams, the cogs are starting to turn in his brain. Let's see if his demeanour changes as the interview goes on from here, because it's taken a different complexion, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we're going to ask you to do.
Okay.
All right. Now we have a process we have to go through to do that.
Okay.
And for the blood sample, I don't take the blood sample. We have specially trained officers that are trained to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to step out and make sure they're still available.
Can I assume you're going to be discreet?
It's possible. Yeah.
Because this would have a very significant impact on the base if they thought you thought I did this.
Well, bottom line, Russell, that's one of the reasons we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
The military certainly be of great assistance to us, especially in relation to Miss Como's investigation. So that's certainly one of the things that went into our decision to give you a call at home today and see if we could deal with this today.
Okay.
So, okay.
It's tough to undo the rumor mill once it gets started.
Skip ahead a bit.
I would say between 3 and 4.
Okay. And are you sure that that's the same day you went out with your wife?
Well, I think so. Yeah.
So they're just trying to drill down on where he was at a certain time, aren't they? So
Yeah.
it's obviously.
I think that was the day we went to this restaurant in Westboro, yes.
Okay.
I think the mic drop moment
You
comes
finished dinner?
soon.
And do you remember what you did that evening?
Sorry, what's that?
I think the mic drop moment comes soon.
I would have driven back to Tweed.
Okay. And you would have... Now, again, I know we're talking 2 months ago here, but do you remember specifically having dinner and then driving back to Tweed, or do you remember... are you just guessing here?
No, I'm not really guessing. I mean, I believe that this night at this restaurant was following the meetings in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
And I, kissed my wife goodbye and headed back to Tweed to go to work the next day.
Okay. All right. The tires that you have on your truck, right? The reason I asked you about that is there any time? I mean, you recall where you were stopped by the officers there?
Yes.
Okay. Did they explain to you what the significance of
That
that
was her house.
That was her house.
Yeah.
Okay. So you remember that location?
Yep.
Do you remember what the crossroad was, or?
I don't think there was a crossroad. It's sort of just on the south end of 37.
Okay. When you get stopped at that location, has there been a time in the recent 1 or 2 weeks that your vehicle has left that road for any reason whatsoever? Have you driven into a field with your vehicle at all for any reason you can think of?
No.
Okay. Because I want you to rack your brain here. This is important. So,
Yeah.
is there anything you can remember doing that would have caused you to drive off the road
No.
at that section of roadway?
No, that's
It's
my
quite a key moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
that's the early part of the highway, and just head north. It's about 30 minutes from there to probably 20 from there to my house.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that when the CSI officers were looking around her property, that they identified a set of tire tracks to the north of her property? Looks as if the vehicle left the road and drove along the north tree line of Jessica Lloyd's property. Okay.
Okay.
They examined those tire tracks. And they have contacts in the tire business. Obviously, tire tracks are a major source of evidence for us.
Sure.
Shortly after this investigation started, they identified those tires as the same tires on your Pathfinder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying to sound surprised.
One of the other things that they do to try and identify the type of vehicle that may have left those tires, well, is they do two things. They talk to witnesses. Okay. There was a female police officer that actually drove by that location that evening and recalls seeing an SUV type vehicle in the field to the north of Jessica Lloyd's house, consistent with a Pathfinder.
Okay.
Could maybe consistent with other things, but consistent with a Pathfinder. And they, what they also do to try and identify the type of the vehicle is they look at what they call the wheel.
You see, it's changed, hasn't it? The interview to when, obviously it will do, but if you look at him now compared to when the interview started, arms crossed, looking at him directly, the smile completely disappeared, his eyes are moving all the time, so he knows now. It's kind of like
Inevitable.
it's getting really, really serious for him, isn't it? The complexion, the whole thing has changed.
You see, he had his legs stretched out before as well, and now they're tucked in, like all his body's kind of shielding himself. I was actually just thinking before you paused it there, it's quite interesting, like not having the table between them. I think this is a technique they use quite a lot now, isn't it? But
it is, yeah. It's obviously the
was-
barriers thing is quite a significant emotional thing. If you were directly facing someone and there's nothing between you, you've got to look them in the eyes. You feel more vulnerable.
I would feel better if I was the criminal to have a table between me and the interviewer.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, you definitely. Sometimes a solicitor or lawyer will tell the the detained person or whatever you want to fucking call them to sit somewhere else so that that barrier isn't is there, and then they potentially are in a better position. But obviously, yeah, if you look at the top right, you can see they're very close to each other.
Yeah.
And he's kind of leaning towards him, and he's sort of backing away with his arms folded, isn't he?
Yeah.
If you look at him, he's going towards him, and it's going to make him feel more vulnerable. And as the evidence starts to come out, it has a massive effect on the interview, as we'll see. We'll continue a little bit.
Wheelbase width, okay? Because different vehicles, different makes, models have wheelbase width. So they can take those two sets of tire tracks, measure the distance between them, okay, and determine what the width is,
Sure.
and then they can enter that into a vehicle database, and it will spit out the types of vehicles, okay? Your Pathfinder's wheelbase width is very, very close to the width of the tires that were left in that field, okay? Do you have any recollection at all of being off that road?
No, it was not off the road, no.
Okay. All right. Russell, is there anything you can think of? Let's go talk about Marie-France Como for a minute, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason at all you can think of that during our investigation, obviously we're searching computers, things like Blackberries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Electronic devices, looking through houses for things that are in handwriting, written notes, diaries, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not at liberty to tell you what the content was, but is there any reason at all you can think of why Marie-France Como would have specifically referenced you in some of her writings?
Not at all.
No?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Is there anything that she ever said to you that led you to believe that there might be something more than a passing interest with her towards you?
Not at all. No, we spent, one flight together talking. I'd go back occasionally and talk. No, if that's the case, that's very surprising.
Okay. All right. You have any questions for me right now?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to step out and see how things are going. Okay. I mean, it is a Sunday, but there's probably 60, 70 people working on this file, so there's a lot of things happening.
Sure.
So let me go out and see what's happening, and then I'll come back in and we'll hopefully continue. Okay. We talked about the whole idea of how we've approached you here. Okay. The trying to be as discreet as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the problem is, Russell, is every time I walk out of this room, there's another issue that comes up. Okay. And it's not issues that point away from you; it's issues that point at you. Okay. And I want you to see what I mean. Mm-hmm. All right. This is the footwear impression of the person who approached the rear of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is slightly smaller, okay, in scale. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's not to scale. The footwear is actually bigger.
Okay.
If you look here on the ruler, you'll see that 1 inch is just slightly smaller than an actual inch. Okay. But this is the way it prints off on the computer.
Yeah.
I'll move this over so you can see what I mean. All right. Essentially, when you're dealing with footwear impressions, we have a gentleman on the OPP who's basically world-renowned. His name is John Norman. Mm-hmm. And essentially, with footwear impressions, you're in a situation where you're pretty much in the area of fingerprints. Mm-hmm. Okay. And essentially, what we're talking about here is, especially when you start adding in other pieces of information that support an investigative position.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a photocopy of the boot that you took off your foot just a little while ago. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert in footwear impressions, so I rely on the experts. footwear impressions are very much like fingerprint comparisons. Okay, you take a look at this print, and again, this is one print. This person walked through. There's several different prints to compare. So we're going to get features off of one print to compare, features off another print to compare.
Yeah.
These are identical.
So, I mean, that's the first hard evidence that's been introduced, I would suggest. I mean, the vehicle, yes, but what he's presenting to him now, is in a situation where you can't explain that away or dismiss it, can you?
No, it's like similar to fingerprints. But how cocky must this guy be to walk in wearing the same boots that he fucking murdered the girl in?
Well, exactly. I mean, his arrogance and sort of ego is key to the whole incident of him doing what he did, how twisted he became, the fact that he thought he could get out of it, the attitude of him in this interview. It's quite interesting, but let's just see how he reacts when it... Well...
Okay. Your vehicle drove up the side of Jessica Lloyd's house. Your boots walked to the back of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January. Okay. You want discretion. We need to have some honesty, okay? Because this is getting out of control really fast, Russell. Okay, really, really fast.
You can see his mind like ticking away, like, what can I say to get out of this?
This is beyond my control.
Of course.
All right, I came in here a few hours ago, and I called you the way I called you today because I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I both know you were at Jessica Lloyd's house, and I need to know why.
He's in a state of shock, isn't it? Like you said, for him to walk in there with those boots on, to be so cocky, it's like his whole world's crumbling around. I think he sort of was this character in his own mind where he was untouchable.
Yeah.
And it's power over other people that is the main factor in what you would call rapes and murders and things, and this is what set this guy on this massive twisted power trip. And now the walls of his ego created identity have started to crumble, because for the first time, maybe in a long time, he's not in control of his own destiny anymore.
Yeah. He's got a very tiny feeling to how he made those people feel at the start before the horrific things he did to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Losing control, losing power. And
it's satisfying to see. I'm sure if the family of this girl were able to sit through this, they get a little bit of satisfaction, as much as you could get, to see him in such an uncomfortable justice. It's justice, isn't it? This is justice.
Well, to an extent, it's justice.
Well, it's not justice. It's justice how it should be.
Justice. Well, proper justice would be, a bunch of people raping him and then him being locked up for life. Well, I think he is locked up for life, isn't he? He's serving consecutive sentences, but some people should make it it'd be worse to probably live afterwards. But some people should make him feel like he made those girls feel, because he's a fucking monster.
Oh, of course, yeah. I suggest my thoughts about these things, and I'm sure it'd be different if someone I knew was affected, was you've got to give these people the justice that they denied everybody else, because if you don't, you become as bad as they do. You can't,
this is true. You
can't say, right, you haven't got a right to murder and kill and rape someone, but I have, and I'm going to do that to you, because you then become as bad as them.
No, but it would be. I don't think prison was a punishment enough, but then I also think the death penalty is an escape. But I guess that's a conversation for another time. Because
that's an interesting topic. Maybe we could do a video about that in the future. But let's carry on. We can't go for too long. There's so much to cover. It's going to have to cover several videos, but we'll do a little bit longer because we're at a key moment.
Yeah.
he's just trying to buy himself more time by looking at them. He knows that they're genuine. He knows that the police haven't tampered with the evidence, but what else is he to do?
I don't know what to say. It's,
Well, you need to explain it, because this is the other problem we're having, Russell. Okay? Again, these decisions are made by me. Right now, there's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Ottawa. Okay? So your wife now knows what's going on. There's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Tweed, and your vehicle's been seized. Okay? You and I both know they're going to find evidence that links you to these situations. Okay. You and I both know that the unknown offender mailed on Marie France Comeau's body is going to be matched to you, quite possibly before the evening's over. Okay. This is a major investigation. The Center of Forensic Science is on call 24 hours a day helping us with this. Your opportunity to take some control here and to have some explanation that anybody is going to believe is quickly expiring.
So he's very cleverly put him in a situation here where he's fucked. I mean, we know he's that anyway, but what I mean is he's closed all the walls around him, hasn't he?
So it's quite poignant where he says you can take some control here. He's offering him the thing that he gets off on, isn't he? By giving me, telling me what you did, you'll be in control.
Of course, that's quite. I picked up on that as well. Is that a deliberate thing by him?
Yeah, I
because
think
of the character he is. But what he's saying, he's saying, listen, we've got the best forensic people out there, and they will find something. And he's basically saying, in a roundabout way, you are fucked, my friend. You need to cough to it because it's inevitable. And he's doing it in a slowly, subtle way. For instance, if he'd have gone directly to him and said what I just said, it wouldn't have worked because he'd immediately close up. But he's like drowning him very slowly, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's very clever.
Making him squirm.
Yeah.
That way he's going to get a confession without him asking for a solicitor or a lawyer.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. We're applying, the investigators now applying for a warrant to search your office. Right. These aren't decisions that we can say yes or no to. This is practical steps in an investigation like this. And Russell,
That's a hell of a pause for dramatic effect.
Russell, listen to me for a second, okay? When that evidence comes in, when that DNA match, when that phone rings and somebody knocks on this door, your credibility is gone, okay? Because this is how credibility works, all right? And I know you're an intelligent person and you probably don't need to hear this explanation, but I also know your mind's racing right now, okay? Because I've sat across a lot of people in your position over the years, okay? The bottom line is that as soon as we get that piece of evidence that solidifies it, DNA, okay, as soon as the expert in footwear impressions, the expert in tire impressions calls and says, yes, I've examined those and they're a match, it's all over. Because
it's a good way, it's a good point to stop until the next one, because it's
cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's kind of it's quite an interesting play, really, because if you think about it, he knows he's done it. He knows he's done it. The cop, obviously, he knows what he's done, but he also now knows that he knows that he's done it, if that makes any sense. But you know what I mean.
It reminds me of an old ska song that goes like, I know that you know that he knows that she knows. But yeah, no, I think it's so well played by. I really should look up his name, the interviewer guy, because he's known from the start, and the way he's kind of been so friendly with him, and now he's just dropping the bomb on him like that. Like I've known, you know, there's too much evidence here for it not to be this fucker.
Of course. I think the next one's probably going to be the most crucial parts of the interview. We've done, you know, we've just got to the point where the walls have closed in around him now, haven't they? And it's very interesting the way it plays out, and that, you know, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's not seen it. But we're going to leave it there for the time being. Just let me know, guys, if you've enjoyed this, because I think this is the first interview I've covered that isn't related to TCAP. So I just thought we'd try something else to maybe, you know, because we can't, you know, there's only so much TCAP you know, stuff out there, isn't there? But Adam, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, as always.
And I'll speak to you soon, guys. Thank you.